miss it.
Welcome to the 98% podcast, where we hear real stories from real people. And I'm here with Liz. So Liz, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. Oh man, right off the bat. Where do we start? It's kind of funny because when I saw how open your show is, and I saw that you would ask, about our background, I thought, how does someone pick? Do we give you the romantic comedy, the tragedy? What genre do you place you in? But I guess just right off the bat, I'm Liz. I live in Wichita, near Wichita, Kansas right now. I got 3 kiddos. I don't know if you knew that, actually. I have 3, which is wild. And my husband, Scott, is a pilot, which is so cool, but then he's gone so much. So that's been a transition for us this year. And I have been really big. I guess professionally, I've done some music stuff. Music ministry, was involved in churches. That'll probably come up some later. And recently, I've also done some podcasting the last few years over very specific topics concerning religious deconstruction. So, yeah, that's probably what you're actually asking right away with that question. I'm like, who is Liz? I don't know. Help me find out. So, yeah. Anyway, but that's the gist of it. So
Exactly. Okay. So I guess we can go to the question about how you know me first. We can go there. And then let's fill in this gap, because we were talking off screen that it's been I don't even know how long it's been. 10 years? I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
It's been forever. So what have you been doing?
That's so
I guess,
wild.
Yeah.
That's so wild, because I really distinctly remember the few times I was over at your guys' place. So I know Amber. Your ex was my really good friend. We worked at the music department at College of the Ozarks. And I think I got stranded, but it was great, at your guys' apartment. I don't think you were there. Were you there? There was a snowstorm, and we just, I couldn't go to school. So she and I just hung out, and it was great.
You know what's weird is I vaguely remember that, but I only remember the picture because you were wearing my stuff.
Oh, I think we went sledding. You were there. We're like,
yeah,
let's just go sledding. You're probably like, who is this girl in all my stuff? That was a wild memory. I wonder if Amber remembers that. But no, yeah, I didn't know you super well, but I knew you through Amber. We hung out a few times for sure. I always thought of both of you as the workout couple I knew. And I knew you had, I was really impressed with your collection of, was it figurines? What was it that you had? That's probably the wrong term.
No,
sorry if that's the wrong term. But
that's totally fine. Yeah, that's totally fine. Yeah.
Sorry, but I was like, this is a dedicated person with a legit hobby. And Amber showed me. She's like, look at all this stuff. And I was like, that's impressive. So that's how I know you. About to get to know you better, I think. So there you go.
Mm-hmm. And then since that time, so what you been doing? So I know you mentioned podcast a little bit, but yeah, what's up?
Yeah, so Amber and I, when we met, so the time you and I collided more, we were both music majors at this little Christian college. And I was really hoping to go into music ministry. She was in a piano track. But I really felt this, this deep desire to be leading people in worship of God and all this. But I also had this very nerdy side, very philosophical side, and wanted to go potentially later to school to do apologetics, which, if people don't know, I feel like some of your audience is gonna be like, what is happening on this show? Because this is very different than a lot of people's tracks I've noticed, but I think it does relate to a lot more people than I realize, at least doing my podcast. So I wanted to get into apologetics, which is really this supposedly very logical defense of Christianity. And I thought, if it ever arises in my life, I'll get my master's in that, and I will convert the world, and everyone's life will be wonderful. I truly had amazing intentions, I really wanted to truly, I guess it sounds so cliche, but help change the world for the better. And this is how I thought I knew how, through music, through this artistic side. But then I also thought there's this philosophical debating sort of side that I think a lot of people would really benefit from. So all of that was rolling around in my brain when I graduated. I got married really young. I say that. I think you guys were married younger, which is wild. That happened a lot at that school, I noticed. There are a lot of people there who were married very young. But I got married at 20 and we I'm trying to even think what was the timeline. We moved a few different places. He was in the military at the time, in the Air Force. And I worked at a church, did get the music ministry job. That was really fulfilling in a lot of ways. Got pregnant with our first kiddo, and money was good enough that the thought was I'll stay home for the first little bit. But I wasn't sure I was going to love parenting, actually. At one point in my life, I thought, I don't know if I want to be a parent, which is funny now that I have three, and I do enjoy it. It has been a learned thing. But I remember I said, I don't know if I'm going to enjoy staying home with the kiddo. Can I also start my online master's? And looking back, that was a very questionable choice. Why would I do that? But I started my master's in apologetics online. This literally, I was in the hospital in labor reading one of the books. I was so fired up to do it. So started getting that master's, really following the trajectory of my whole life to that point. You know, you're this Christian, you're going to help save the world. That's very in a nutshell. I don't know if I would have put in those words, but through the duration of that master's for a few years, I started having some big questions about some things and some concerns, some doubts, and it was this whole thing. And so I got permission actually to do a podcast as a independent study course. So I thought I'm just going to interview people. Like my classes are stressing me out. Like they're not giving me the answers I'm actually looking for right now in a few areas. So I'm just going to interview people who've left church to see did they have the same questions I have, because everyone around me in the school was very much, you know, on one train of thought, or at least that's what we all expressed in class. And so started this podcast, and it really became a really meaningful part of my life for the last few years, really digging into some of my biggest questions, doing it pretty publicly for me, getting other people's stories involved, getting research involved. And I think that just sort of lands us to today. Well, during that, I had two more kids, so there's three now, and moved back to Kansas, where we're both from. So I've done other things. I got into yoga. I'm actually teaching yoga now. I don't know if you knew that.
Mm.
That's really great. I really love that. It's actually been really helpful to counter some of the intense sort of stuff that comes with the podcast topics that I do and everything, and what that meant for me, and like an identity crisis and stuff. Um, so yeah, that's where we're at today, I think.
Nice. Okay. So, okay, I have one vivid memory, and I'm curious if you remember.
Oh gosh, okay.
So, do you remember playing at this church in Arkansas? And do you remember me playing drums for you while you played?
Was it a camp or something? Now I'm getting a couple of memories mixed up, I think.
It wasn't a camp, it was this church, but they had like an external building away from the church. It was like a youth facility. So it was just like youth hanging out there. I just
Okay.
remember you playing, and I remember just I think you needed a drummer, and I was like, I'll play drums. So,
I'm
so
here.
we
I do distinct. Well, I'm wondering if I'm
there.
blending memories, because I
Yeah.
remember Amber saying, "Well, was Amber there? And what was this for?" Because it's
I
a the archives are
well,
struggling.
yeah, she was there, but I don't think it was anything unusual. I think it was just an event, like some youth thing they were doing, like because they did like a youth. I think it was just youth nights they did like every week or something. I don't know.
I bet
I don't remember.
I do think I remember this. I do think I remember this because I remember her asking me or saying, "Well, Ricky could play drums with you." And I think I remember kids being out there, and I was like, "Oh, I'm doing the dream. I'm witnessing to everyone." So I think I do remember this, but I hadn't until you said that. Wow, what a blast from the past. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh. That's
yeah.
wild.
That's funny. Um, and then I'm sure we'll get more into the podcast stuff that you did further on in the pod. But one thing I wanted to kind of continue talking about that we talked about before the camera was on is you mentioned the why. You were kind of talking about the why behind the podcast, and you were talking
Mm,
about how some people end prematurely, and you got to kind of find. I guess you have to have a strong why to continue with it, and I just wanted to know a little bit more about that, and then kind of share a little bit of my why too before we kind of get going.
yes. That would be so good. And so we're talking about like the why behind podcasting in general. Is that correct? Why behind
Yeah.
doing it in general?
Yeah.
So
What drove
I
you?
don't, because you, I know, are a very creative person as well. I know you did drums and I can't remember now. Did you do other instruments or was it primarily drums?
I started singing and playing guitar first, then bass, drums, and I dabble on piano, but I'm not
You
super
have an
good at
album,
piano.
don't you? I think I listened to
I do.
it.
Yeah, I have like 3 albums on
I think
Spotify.
I think I have listened to at least one of them all the way through. Man,
Yeah,
I am
yeah.
like having memories I have not had in a long time. That's wild.
Yeah.
So I bring that up to say, for me, I tried. So I really was convinced for so long music and singing and songwriting were the thing, and I did have some success in that.
Uh-huh.
I missed this whole part in my introduction to you. I forget about this is I did join a label. I can't believe I missed this whole part. I did join a label, a songwriting label. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And it's cool. It sounds cool, but it had kind of a shadow side. So maybe that's why I'm
Hmm.
blocking it. No, but it wasn't that bad. But I joined a label after College of the Ozarks. And it was this guy he's won Grammys, this producer, but he wanted to start his own label. So I was his first person he signed, and it ended up being like a songwriting label. So we would try and get stuff pitched to commercials and shows like that. And we had a few like on them. So I'm not like some radio
Uh,
star, but a couple are on I think the latest was like Love is Blind. Is that a show? I think that's a show.
yeah. Yep.
Franchise. There's some stuff like so there was some stuff, but my dream of doing this whole, witness Christian girl thing was not, even though it was like really cool, it wasn't like exactly what I had hoped. And there was some professional just like kind of clashing of vision. And it kind of got to where I was like, I think I kind of have to let this go. It's not jiving in the way I'd hoped, and I'm not enjoying it, and I'm not in the way I'd hoped. And so I bring that up to say, for me, I compare my podcast to that music endeavor a lot. Like, what was the difference? I had a really hard time promoting my own music personally. I had a really
Uh-huh.
hard time. I loved the writing part. I didn't, and I could perform. There was no real, fear performing wasn't a problem, but there was this weirdness of trying to put me there a little bit, be like, look at me and what I do. And for some reason with the podcast, that wasn't there. And I was able for a while to just create content and content for this podcast. And I really realized part of it was I was in a crisis, that this was kind of self therapy in a way that was really potent and powerful for the podcast. And I know not everyone has that when you're like dying to know these existential questions because your whole identity is kind of falling apart or being questioned. A lot of people look that up in private. I just happened to put it all on this public space. So consistency wasn't hard for a very long time. And that was a really lucky thing because with the music, it was therapeutic, but it just felt weird to be like, look at me, I think. Because even though
Uh-huh.
I can do a lot, I wonder if you're like this. Even though I can do a lot in front of people, I think I am a little more introverted than
Uh-huh.
extroverted, especially when it comes to entertaining. So like
Uh-huh.
talking to someone, I feel like they're getting value of some sort, hopefully, but entertaining, it's harder for it to click in my head that that's still important and valuable to people. That's why my music goals were always tied to like witnessing and
Uh-huh.
like getting these messages. But the podcast, even though I guess it was sort of entertainment, it just cut to these big questions. And right away, I realized there's a lot of people right now in history. I mean, that sounds kind of extreme, but right now in this period of like American Christian history with these same questions. So getting people to come along was really helpful for me. They would share the stuff, it was interesting. So I'm getting a little off track, but the why for me had to do with trying to really sort out my own thoughts and scrapbook, have an archive. And that was really important to me. And then, even though it did matter if people listened, that was secondary to just the material's meaning to me. And I realized that was a big difference between how I approach music because the music was all about them. It was all about their
Uh-huh.
reception. It was all about, are people going to hear this? So it was a little different. And it was kind of like the perfect storm um, of a bunch of tortured souls questioning their religious identity tuning in for a few years. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, I'd be curious to know about you. Like yours is so open-ended. That's like really beautiful that you just ask people about them and it's beautiful. But yeah, I'd love to hear more about that too. What it was like.
Okay. For sure, for sure. So I have a few follow-ups real quick about everything. So first, did you do audio or so you did audio podcast? Did you do video too or just audio?
I did audio only for a long, like literally like
Okay.
3 seasons. And I
Okay.
post a few videos and at the end. I think it's actually similar to the music thing. I know people like to see faces. That would have helped.
Uh-huh.
That would have helped things.
Uh-huh.
But for some reason that started feeling like the music a little bit. Like, oh,
Uh,
here I am. Oh, I even put my makeup on. Like, I don't know, a little bit different than just like, let's just talk about it. And I would tell people, oh, my camera's not working. It's because I didn't hook it up. So that was a little misleading on that. I finally started saying, like, that's kind of dishonest, actually. I was like, no, I just don't have, I just do audio. I was like, I don't need to tell people this not true thing. It's technically not working because of me. But I did just prefer, and it kind of reminded me of how songwriting felt to me. You know, I loved the writing. The performance was another ballgame for me. And I think the podcast felt like that too. The audio felt like this is what as a consumer, I listen more than I watch. But
mhm.
I understand other consumers aren't that way. So I just kind of let the podcast be a little bit more what felt natural to what I would actually want to do. Where music, I was always trying to fit, you know, the bill a little bit more. But you always do video, right? From as far back as I saw.
Yeah, yeah. I started with video because unlike what you said, I actually don't mind being on camera or performing or anything like that.
That's
So
great.
so so that's it's funny because I've always wanted that. Like I remember growing up as a kid being like, when I grow up, I'm going to be an actor. Like I just wanted to perform.
Yeah.
Um, but what's funny is I have a reserved demeanor sometimes as well. So I've got like this dual thing. Like in certain positions, I can be very reserved to myself,
Mhm.
but then there's certain times where it's like I can be extroverted as could be. It just kind of depends on the
Yeah.
setting. But and then I also had a follow up. It sounds like we were very similar in this way too. Is you're into lots of different things, aren't you?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. That seems
So
nice.
so it's because I notice like because I like to bounce around from stuff time to
Mhm.
time. Like it's where like I'll do something for a while and I'm like, okay, I don't enjoy this as much as I used to. Let's see what else is exciting. And it's like, oh, this is exciting. Let's do this for a little bit and see how that
That's,
goes.
we do share
So
that.
okay. So and then to get back to the music thing is I'm similar to you with that is I was always in it for songwriting too. So I've always
Okay.
enjoyed writing music and songs, but it was more about like what is the end result going to sound like? And I loved seeing what it would turn
Oh.
into, which is kind of why I learned all the instruments because I didn't want anything holding me back from actually hearing what the song would sound like. So that's kind of my whole thing behind it is I love like the create like what kind like I don't necessarily like the process very much, but it's like the end
Okay.
result when it happens, like, oh, this is cool. And I will listen to it nonstop until I get tired of it.
That is very cool because when I get
Yeah.
the song done, I'm kind of done with it. See, this is why there's
Yep.
different people in these different. I used to be like, why is there a producer? Why is there an engineer? Why is there all these people at this label? And I'm like, I get it. Like, actually, people are strong in the different areas. Cause, like, yeah, when mine's completed, it's like, okay, next
Hmm.
one. And you're like, that's like it for you. That's very cool.
Hmm.
That's opposite of me for sure.
Yeah. And then that'll bring me back to the podcast stuff. So I guess to fill you in, because since you filled me in, I'll fill you in.
Yes, please do.
Um so yeah, so since I guess we saw each other last, I guess College of the Ozarks era, I would assume was probably last time for the most part.
Mhm.
Um, let's see, stayed with Nike for a long time. I worked there 16 years. So that's pretty
Wow.
wild. So was into training and development. And it was funny because I stopped doing music during that time. And I still wrote songs from time to time, but it was very passively, like just when I mess around and be like, oh, this sounds good. Let's make a song out of it. Um, but it would be, yeah, I just started doing that. And I think what I was doing is I was getting that feeling, uh, that itch scratched by something else. I think it was my training and development career with Nike, is because,
Okay.
right, you're facilitating, you're in front of people, you're teaching. And I think that got the performance thing out of the way to where I was like, oh, this is kind of like music. And I didn't feel like the need to keep doing music. But it wasn't until my divorce where like things shifted a lot for me actually. So um, it's like I had to reestablish everything. So it was like, um, yeah, trying to rediscover myself, try to shift how things have been. Cause I mean, I was married 12 years.
Wow.
Um, and yeah, I guess just trying to navigate the world. And that's when, and I was still right before my divorce, I had this idea for the podcast. Wait, no. I didn't. I didn't. Okay. So I forgot. So let's get the timeline straight here, Ricky. So
You sound
what
like me.
happened?
It's like, oh yeah.
Yeah, no. You know, that's not how it went down, Ricky. Come on. But but yeah, after the divorce, like just because like how that works for everybody, like you lose your self-esteem, you're trying to figure out who you are, etc. So I started reading a bunch of books, which if people know me, I don't read books, but that got me reading books, like trying to figure out who am I? How do I figure out how everything works? I need to figure out some stuff. And I started reading some books, and one of the books that I started reading, um, was uh was a self-help book, and they talked about mass media exceptionalism, and it got me really thinking and pondering about that concept, which was like the whole concept was okay, so what we see on the day-to-day basis through social media news outlets are like the 2% of what's actually real. So
Hmm.
we're seeing like the exceptional 24/7, right? Whether it be exceptionally good or exceptionally bad. And it skews our version of what reality is, especially if we don't try to seek any further connection or actually show people who we are. And then we tend to feel like inadequate, because I had a lot of feelings of inadequacy during that time of like, I don't feel like I'm enough. You know, just all these things. And it's just, and it was difficult for me to deal with. But I think that feeling of like I'm normal and feeling like this is normal to a certain extent, and that other people could be going through this was big. So I started trying to have deeper connections with people. And I found out it's just listening and asking questions. And through that process, after having the idea of the podcast itself, I just realized I like connecting with people. And then it turned into, you know what, maybe other people need to hear this. So my why is not because I actually wanted to start a podcast. I didn't really understand podcasting in the first place. I don't listen to podcasts really, like,
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
So, 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 so I didn't, it was just one of those things, like, it just made sense. Like, when I was talking to people, I was like, people need to hear people's stories. Like, I enjoy talking with people and listening, and like the amount of things I think that people want to be vulnerable about and share is like amazing. And it's beautiful for people to like share stuff. And even like, it sounds terrible, but when people share something and they cry, I'm like, that's beautiful. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like,
It
cause it
is.
is, 'cause it is. And, so yeah, so that's why I came with the 98% podcast to kind of emphasize the normality of things. Like, what is the 98%, right? It's all of us. So just being able to have people on and share their stories. And then I created just some questions that I thought would kind of sum up, the individual as as a person. We get to a sneak peek into their life. And yeah, and I love it because everyone's viewpoints are so different. I have
Yeah.
people that are hardcore, like pastors on here. I have people that are atheists on here. I have people like all different types of people. And the funny thing is I love talking to all of them. I love hearing all their stories because it's really fascinating.
That is
So
very cool. And I just have to
yeah.
commend you. I don't find, because I've had a few people ask about how do I start a podcast? How do I start this or that? And it is a rare person who knows the balance of like, I don't know a lot, but I know enough that I'm going to take the leap. And it sounds like you did that. And it's really working. The format's working because that's one thing, I've seen people just spend so much time being like research, and you need a little maybe research, right? And figure out a
Yeah.
little bit. But like, I love that you just jumped in because, and didn't get tangled in the technicalities of it necessarily
Uh-huh.
and the promotion and stuff. I found,
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I love that because it reminds me of why the podcast worked for me in ways music didn't. Because I got
Uh-huh.
really tangled in some of those. I would always look up how do you,
Uh-huh.
get people instead of just how do I express and like
Uh-huh.
find things that make me come alive. Sounds like you do the same thing. So that's really cool.
Yeah. I read this other book called Obstacle is the Way, which is awesome. I don't know if you've read it.
Mm-mm.
Um, but that book emphasized action for me a lot because I realized that you can do all the research you want for a year, yet the person that takes a minute and presses record, it has made it further than you ever have. And so I realized that like you don't necessarily need to know from A to Z, but just need to know from A to B. Just figure out like, hey, hit
So
record,
good.
see how you're doing, and then just build off of that. And that's kind of my philosophy, is just I figured out as I went. Like Riverside, I didn't really know about that until I started talking to someone, and then they were like, oh yeah, you should do Riverside. Oh, let's do Riverside.
I
And it's
love
just like
Riverside.
learning, yeah, learning little things from different people, and it's like just learn as you go. And I think that's how most people learn. Is it's not you don't have to know it, you just have to take the action of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's so good. But it is a tough balance because
yeah,
I had seen people
yeah.
in other realms, not just podcasting. It is like the desire to action leap is so hard for like millions of reasons. And
Hmm.
when it clicks, like I don't know, I kind of like have thought about that for myself. I hope you do too. Like when it clicks, that is a rare and really cool thing that you had the desire, you took the action, and you didn't get lost in all the 5,000 others. But anyway, sorry, I'm kind of projecting my excitement through your story to me. I'm like, we did do it. Like we
We
did
did
it.
it.
So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, sweet. So, just to let the audience know real quick, if this is their first episode they're tuning into, what we're going to do is I gave Liz a series of questions, and we're going to go through those questions now. And the goal is just to see, if you connect with her story and just realize that you're not alone. So, let's start at the beginning. Liz, what was growing up like for you?
What was growing up like for me? It was a
Mhm.
whirlwind. I had no, on the outside, it looked very serene and tranquil. And what a lot of people, I think, want for their kids in some ways today. I was a farm kid. My sisters are quite a bit older, so felt like an only child. I didn't do a ton of extracurriculars. Lots of time in the outdoors at our farm in Kansas. So there wasn't like, mountains or anything like that, but lots of time doing that, lots of time in my own head. Honestly, looking back, not like this extraordinary emphasis on Christianity growing up. I pretty typical for our area,
Mhm.
but my particular personality, I really latched onto it. And I had a lot of existential questions young, fears, philosophical things young. So I would be spending a lot of hours in our yard as a kid with the farm cats, my friends. That's what kind of kid I was. Um, I would be stressing and like trying to figure out, do I believe? Do I not? Am I in danger of hell? And like, I think I believe in it. This very furious, fast and furious, religious experience young, but there was a conversion that was really actually a beautiful experience for me, and a lot of really good things that came from fully embracing that paradigm and thinking, no, I do believe in a good God, and I do experience that, and I do have all this love, and there was so much good that came from it. So it was not one-sided, but definitely was an artsy kid and didn't feel like I had an outlet, especially for those big questions. And that followed me my whole life till literally now in my 30s, So, but now I do have an outlet, and it's really been healing and helpful. And I have a lot of peace with questions, even unanswered ones. But as a kid, that was sort of my day to day. I loved school. I loved the social interaction of school. Um, and I loved singing, as we've talked about. I loved being able to sing and do that because I think I had this, what do you call it? Oh, inferiority complex? What am I trying to? I think that's it. I was like, people won't like me. They're not going to like me. So I
Mm.
kind of I have to be, here I am. Oh, I can sing, I can play and tell you about Jesus, which you probably won't like also. But if I do it in this really beautiful, cool way, maybe you will like it. So I'm oversimplifying but there was a lot to do with that. I also think I had an eating disorder for similar reasons, not necessarily to witness to people, but I think there was this real feeling of like people aren't going to like you. That if you're talking about Jesus, people don't like you. So have everything else really in place so that the only thing they can't like is God, and then he'll do the work there, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
That's how I took it. And I used to really get upset with my parents and some of this messaging, and I don't so much anymore because my sisters had the very same thing and didn't take away the things I did from it. So I kind of just have to realize a lot of this had to do with my own personality and my own anxieties too, and things. So it's a mix of things. But I do have a love for the Midwest and Kansas and what a lot of people consider boring or whatever, countryside. I'm like, it's home. It will always be home. So yeah.
I'm curious if you've experienced this too. So I'm a big questions person too. Like, don't ever invite me to church because when you do, I make I make all these
Stay a
notes
while.
on what I agree with or what I disagree with or like I have questions about. And I do that for everything. I just always question everything. And I always like I used to drive some people crazy is because it's like I like to play devil's advocate. Like you say
Yeah.
something like, what about the other perspective? Let's talk about that real quick. But I'm curious if you because I can catch myself being that way up here, but
Mhm.
not expressing it outwardly. So most people, when I'm around people, because I'm usually polite and well mannered, the people just assume I always believe what they believe. But in here,
Yeah.
I'm always thinking about it, and that's totally fine with me. So I'm curious, like, was it that way for you, or did you feel like you really needed to express your differences, like verbally to people
The
so they knew?
differences. No, my approach was a little different. It was
Uh-huh.
more, I really strongly believed if people knew what everything they're wanting, everything they're aching for and looking for is actually this, everyone would believe like I did. So it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
as important back then at all to point out I mean, I felt, but it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't, it was not, I didn't get in debates then at all, hardly.
Mm-hmm.
It was more like, I want people to know they are truly loved so deeply. And there's all these things that they're aching for and longing for. And I think I know the answer for them. So it was more about a finding of common ground.
Mm-hmm.
And the debate, the devil's advocate part would only come out because of me. I was the biggest skeptic I knew, which was so weird to have both, which sounds like you were
Mhm,
similar. Maybe your
mhm,
mind might be similarly. Um, so even going into apologetics, that master's degree, yes, I wanted to tell other people, but part of it was I was like, I still have a few things, even though I'm pretty content in this faith, there's a few things that I'm confused about. I know this master's is going to clear it up for me. So it'll help with that inner skeptic. And it did not help in quite the way I had hoped. But yeah, I didn't like pointing out the differences most of my life, actually. That's been more
mhm,
recent to see. And I think maybe the difference also is I couldn't embrace the differences. It sounds like maybe you're more okay with embracing, like, okay, you're like this, but what about this? But also maybe it doesn't matter. I don't know. You'll have to
mhm,
tell me if that's how you feel. Like I had trouble being like, ooh, I don't know, in the moment, it's that Midwest conditioning, like, let's all get
mhm.
along. I think it was hard for me to overcome face to face with people in the past a little more.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I think why I'm okay with it is because I'm okay with not knowing. I think that's a
Mm,
later thing that I've developed in life, is there's so much we don't know that I really don't tie my identity to about anything, and I don't usually have a hard stance. Like, you can if you have a good take on something, you might make me not necessarily change my mind, but you might make me think like, "Ooh, that's a good way to look at it. Maybe I'll like, that's good." So I don't know. I don't know if that's it, is like someone says something, I'm like, well, that could be true. Someone says something
yeah.
else, well, maybe that's true too. And I don't know. I guess at the end of the day, I feel okay with it. And I think by helping people in certain ways or just connecting with people, I feel like that's some of the most important pieces. So I don't know. That's me.
Yeah. No, that's really awesome because it's taken me like 3 decades to get to that point.
Oh, yeah.
So good job.
Uh,
It's game built in. But for real, it did take me a long time. And now I do feel like I'm a lot more okay with that not knowing. Cause like I said, I think when you look at the borders of what you know, you have to admit, like, we don't know a lot. And so mine was more out of necessity of realizing,
uh-huh,
like, I have to I have to have this more humble attitude because I don't know. And if I'm going to learn anything, I have to engage with that a little bit differently than in the past. But mine was not always natural. So
uh,
that's very well.
okay. Okay. So let's do the next question. This is one of my favorites. So, what's the biggest struggle that you've made it through?
Oh man. There's definitely more. I mean, there's definitely a few that would be equal. So this, man, I don't even know how to pick. And I even looked at these questions. I will say, I will give you a specific one. One of the things that was really hard for me in middle school, when I had it all ties to faith still. I believed in God, but I also really believed demons were present, were actively very after me. I was convinced that I might get possessed, and it was terrifying for about a year and a half. Terrifying mental anguish, and I did not tell anyone, which is just wild to me. And so it's like it's hard to even describe what that looked like. I kind of got in to what I consider for me an OCD kind of praying style, where I was like, I have to constantly be sort of praying and
Hmm.
protecting myself, but because my faith, because I still had doubts,
Hmm.
I might be vulnerable to this or that. And I don't know if that's accurate for what actual diagnosable OCD is, but it did feel like very um, intrusive, sort of repetitive sort of thinking. And so that was a really, really difficult time in my life, thinking I was completely at the whims of these spiritual things. And I didn't know how I played into it, and I didn't know who would win. And I had this really hard anxiety to go through. But overcoming that, it's kind of even hard to explain how I overcame that. I had a dream, which I think was a sleep paralysis dream, if you know what those are, because in my dream I was laying in the bed I was actually in, but I was actively getting possessed. Something was like crawling up, and it came to the top of my head. It came up to here, I guess, my neck. And I was like exhausted from doing this OCD praying. And I said the name Jesus, and it all fell away. And I woke up. And I think it was the first time I realized I have a lot more access to power over my fears than I realized. And this idea, like, Jesus won't forsake me just because of these doubts that are always kind of there at that point in life. And so that wasn't immediately gone, but that was kind of a turning point into letting go of that crippling fear. Um, and so that was really hard. And there's been other difficulties in life, but none of them felt so isolating. I think I felt extremely isolated. Um,
Hmm.
and I don't know why I didn't tell people, but I think especially when you're young and it's well, and especially me with my complex, like no one likes you. Everyone will think you're weird if they know the real you. Well, you don't want to make it worse. Um, but yeah, I suffered those years in ways a lot of people don't know about. So
Interesting. So, what's really interesting is you made me think of something I haven't thought about in forever.
yeah,
So,
when
so
you
I
got
was the
possessed. No, I'm just
I was I didn't get possessed, but I experienced the exact same thing, and I
Did
wonder
you?
how many people did. Yeah, so like when I was a kid, people don't know this, and I've never talked about it because I kind of forgot. Is
Mhm.
I was a super scared little kid, like, but I never told anybody, and it was kind of for the same reasons. It was like ghosts, being possessed,
Yeah,
demons. There's all the same stuff that you dealt with, and I just remember always being super afraid of things, and I don't remember when it changed, but it just changed at some point. I don't know. I'm trying to play it back in my head and think of what was it, and I don't know if it was like, well, maybe it was me getting into metal music and all these dark things. And maybe that was like the
ooh,
integration with the shadow that helped me get over it. I don't know. I don't
yeah,
know. Um, yeah, I just remember it just like it like that's why I don't think of it as a struggle because yeah, I didn't tell anybody, but I didn't really think about it till just now because it just kind of like
it
just
was.
went away, just withered away, and I don't know why, but yeah, I was the same way, and I'm sure my sister was probably the same way, and I think there's a lot more people that are that way than you realize. Yeah, so I would say you weren't alone in that.
Yeah,
I'd say there's quite a few, and I don't know. It's weird to be in that position, but I guess it's not surprising because when you're a kid, you're kind of at the whim of your parents, right? You're kind of defenseless, so it makes sense that we would be more afraid anyways of just about anything, just because we're so I mean, we're so fragile. We're kids, right? We can't stand up for ourselves. We can't do anything. But so
yeah.
maybe that was it. Is just growing up and getting older and realizing like, oh, I'm safe. I don't know. That's all I got.
Yeah, and I think also, for me, being growing up and hearing these very formative teachings from people, here's how the world works, here's how nature works, here's how math works, here's how God works. Like those were all seen as the same level or presented as the same level of things we're certain about.
Hmm.
And I think that was really hard on me. I wish there would have, I guess I needed someone like me now, really, who was
Yeah.
like, hey, I have lots of ideas about this. No one actually knows. Even if they're convinced they know, like we all don't know for sure. Here's kind of what I think. Here's what I consider evidence, even though you can't have concrete evidence for much concerning metaphysical
Mhm.
things. Um, because for me, I thought, okay, my parents and church are very convinced demons are real. What? But I'm not told much about, like, am I in danger? Like, no one seems to. It just seemed very unsafe in ways that it was on the same level as these other things. Like, well, crossing the road can be unsafe. It's like those
Yeah.
are anyway. So yeah, I don't know if yours was like that too, but I've wondered if some of that same level of truth element being presented through all of these things contributed. I don't know.
I mean, I think that's fair. I think my perception was just different because Amber and I went to the same church. I had some friends that went to the same church.
Mhm.
And as you know, they deconstructed hard and they had
Okay.
I mean, you've talked to Amber about it. It kind of messed her up to a certain extent. Right. And I'm like, but
Yeah.
it's funny because I was at the same church and I didn't. And I don't know if it's because I didn't take it in or I don't know. Maybe I didn't take in the information the same way, or maybe I didn't
Yeah.
embrace with her. And maybe I just wasn't as good of a Christian. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Oh,
you know, no, no,
yeah.
no, but you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like that's
Yeah.
like a thing. That's a thing, right? So
Yeah.
like, who knows? But yeah, it is an interesting concept for sure. One thing I wanted to get back on is you mentioned that did you started doing what you wish you would have had. And it's funny because I think that we all do that. I think that like who we become is like we become what we needed. And I think
Yep.
that's a really interesting thing to think about is like, if I think about this, like, what did I need when I was younger? Well, I didn't have a ton of connection like I would have wanted to. I would have loved people just to talk to me and get to know me and ask questions. And it's like, and that's what I'm doing now. And it's like, wow, I get to provide that for someone else. And I think if you look at people's trajectories, if they're continuing to grow and actually they're figuring out stuff about themselves, they tend to always end up in a place where like, I didn't get this. And this is why I'm so good at it because I'm giving what I didn't get. And I think that's
Yeah.
interesting.
That's really beautiful. As I told you, I teach yoga now, and I do a meditation class, and we just did this last Sunday an inner child meditation.
Uh-huh.
And it was around that idea, you're your own guardian now for the rest of your life.
Uh-huh.
Like the child still lives with you. You still
Uh-huh.
carry that perversion, and now you get to parent it, which is like simultaneously wonderful and really daunting, maybe sometimes.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I think it's really neat to see that. Like you're doing it and I'm doing that too. And then it helps people along the way. I think one thing that's been hard for me is to realize with my kids, though, here I'm doing your devil's advocate thing. It's been
Uh-huh.
humbling to
Yep. Yep.
realize, like, shoot, though, I don't know that they all need what I need. And what do I
Mhm.
do for you? That's been a tricky balance because, like, I'm trying to figure out what I need, this one child in here,
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah.
there these other children. I'm like, what the heck do you need? Your personalities are so different.
Uh-huh.
Um, so it's man, parenting, adulting, it is. I knew it'd be wild, but here we are, and it is wild. It is in fact
Yeah.
wild to try and figure this stuff out. But
That's funny.
yeah,
As you were playing devil's advocate, I was already playing devil's advocate. So I came to the same place. So I was coming to the same place. No, like literally, like you're right. Because I think too, like, right, we give ourselves what we needed, but that doesn't always mean it's what everybody else needs. I didn't even think, you know what I
yeah,
mean? Because think about how many things people do that you're like, they're probably causing more harm than good. And it's just because they are
yeah,
giving themselves what they need and they're trying to assume or they're projecting that that's what everybody needs. So it's like,
yeah,
there definitely is a balance or fine line, or at least understanding and tailoring to whatever audience you're trying to reach out to, for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
That is true. It is tricky.
Okay. So now, what are you currently going through that's positive or negative?
Oh man, I really already talked about it. I really love teaching yoga. I'm still in my teacher training, but I just work at the local rec.
Uh huh.
I'm like, why did I not do? I mean, I would not have been in the right headspace for it earlier. I probably would have thought it was demonic or something earlier. But I just really I just really love it so much. I think I have been divorced from my physical for so long, really. And I think that
Uh
started way back with sort of the um eating disorder sort of stuff. I never got diagnosed, but looking back, I'm like, I think there was something pretty off potentially. That it is very life-giving to do yoga, and not to just do it, to really lead it. And
Mhm,
especially the meditations, I realized speaking the meditation, I think I'm a verbal processor, which I wonder if you are, because here we are.
mhm.
Speaking the meditations every week is more fulfilling for me than sitting in on a meditation class, because I think I don't know, it's helping it click for me in a little bit of a different way. These things that I'm not saying anything new, like most people, I mean, maybe, they haven't heard about the inner child in this way or that exact, but speaking things, having our bodies get involved in that way is really life giving. And I know you, I mean, I always thought of, like I said, you and Amber, like the super fit couple. They're so in tune with their bodies. And I was always over here like, I run occasionally. I don't know what I'm doing with my hands, like, and so it's been really cool to, I don't know, have things come full circle in that way.
For
But
sure. Yeah, I
yeah.
like that. I like that. Okay. So next, who has changed your life that doesn't know it?
Oh man. Oh, I had an answer for this. And then I had to cancel on you last week. Who was it? Oh no. Actually, I do have someone. I don't even know where they are now. I should look them up. Um, but this was back in high school. There was a Wiccan boy, and he was so confusing in my brain because he was everything I thought a Christian should be, but he was Wiccan. And he would even like
Mm.
kind of convert people to Wiccanism. Like he would kind of like get, so he's like doing my job. And I was like, what is happening? You're supposed to be full of darkness. And like, it was really confusing. And he's been kind of an archetype in my mind for years. Never someone I really became friends. I did not dislike him. I didn't
Mhm,
dislike him, but he really confused me. And I remember for years just thinking about there are people who are good and loving, it seems like for the sake of those things. Like I kind of at first I was like, he's got to be trying to manipulate. He's got to have
mhm,
ulterior motives. And then I was like, I don't think
mhm.
he does. And so that was a really humbling and beautiful thing that I've carried with me all the way through now in the podcast and the deconstruction. So he has no idea. And maybe I should try and find him on the internet. He'd probably be like,
Mm.
who are you? How do I know you? But yeah, so
Okay.
he'd be the one.
So if he was standing here right now, what would you say to him?
Oh man, be like, how are you, man? I don't know. I haven't seen you in so long. I don't know. I would probably somehow segue into asking, like, was it Wiccan? What were you into? And what are you now? And then I would probably at that point say, like, here's how you really impacted me. You helped me think outside of the bubble I was really in high school. And it was
Mhm.
just by how you treated people, especially new kids, and how you just gravitated towards people who needed a friend. So that literally affected me for decades. So good work, Jordan. Good work. And made me question my entire religious framework. Good job.
Watch, you'd meet him today, and he'd be like the most on fire Christian.
He probably would. He'd be like, no, I rebuke you.
No, but this is an interesting thing. Is I've thought about this theory for a while. I always think it's fascinating. Is I feel like a lot of times we like because everybody's path's a little different, and I feel like we're always kind of coming to a homeostasis. So I've noticed with age and just knowing lots of different people is it's like a lot of people that were Christians tend to kind of move towards kind of figuring out almost like deconstructing their beliefs, whereas you have
Yeah.
people that weren't, and all of a sudden they're starting to find their way to Christianity, and it makes me wonder if it's
Yeah.
like if it's just this like I don't know, like what if it's just this yin
The
yang thing? Like
pendulum.
we're trying to find balance. Exactly. So maybe it's always part of our destiny, anyways. Is just maybe some of us start in it, some of us end in it. So, I don't know. It's really
I
fascinating.
love that. I really love that actually because that is so in yoga philosophy, there's this idea, attachment can cause suffering. I think a lot of people
Uh-huh.
maybe hear that. If you get too attached, it causes suffering. But on the flip side, aversion causes suffering. They're almost, I
Uh,
mean, they're like twins, but they're opposite. And like I have seen where people cannot embrace that nuance that you just described. So many people leave Christianity or distance themselves, and they take this real firmness against everything before. And I think I've had to reckon with what you just said. For a lot of people, pressing into some things that really I'm kind of like, oh, don't, like it has a place in their life and a benefit in certain ways for them to press closer to that. And I have to sit and reckon with like, okay, I have this whole claim I don't know things. Can I still hold that up when I'm sure you are on the wrong track? If that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, anyway, that's a very humble thing you just said that I think is very profound. And I have seen it a little bit in the last few years um, with this page. I will tell you, I had a really interesting. I have some people come to my page who are wanting to come to Christianity, which like blows my mind. I'm like, have you looked at my page? Like, I mean, I still I still have belief, but I'm like, it's like, do you know what deconstruction is? But like but they're like, yeah, we do. I had one in particular saying, I've always been so against religion. And I said, but I do think I'm interested in Christianity, but I want to go through the people who think. I want to experience it through the people who dig and don't just say dogma with no questions. And it was kind of this, I've had more people ask me about coming to faith in Jesus. I was like, this is the why. And granted, that's partly just because it's so public compared to what I did in the
Yeah.
past, but I was like, what is happening? Because that's like not this page is auditing Christianity. You know what I mean? It's like
Yep.
that's how I think of it. This whole podcast. And so but I've seen that thing you talk about, that pendulum
Mm-hmm.
swing. And it used to really bother me. And I think it's actually really beautiful. It's really beautiful. It's confusing. And sometimes we need to let it be.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, and not
I
try to
know.
alter everything. So
It's interesting. Yeah. Can you still love that person and what they believe without, taking it on yourself,
yeah. Or love
Mhm.
what it does for them that's positive.
Exactly. There we
Yeah.
go. Yep.
Yeah. Because some of the stuff, it's like that belief. It's really hard when the same beliefs I processed and it caused a lot of damage. And it takes a step back to say, like, you're having the same belief, but the way you're processing it isn't damaging you. Can I
Mm-hmm.
celebrate that it's helping you in this season? It's really
Mm-hmm.
hard, but I
Mm-hmm.
think, and there's a place for that. That's one thing about the podcast I really like is I do get my say. I do get my
Mm-hmm.
say. So I don't feel like
Mm-hmm.
I have to do it in person to everyone. If they actually want my
Mm-hmm.
opinion, I have an episode for why I struggle with that belief now or don't believe it now, that particular
Mm-hmm.
one, and here it is. But yeah, anyway, I get fired up about this stuff, I guess. You can tell.
Perfect.
Yes, that's what you're looking
Okay.
for.
Exactly. Okay. So next question. So what's a skill or talent you could share with us?
Oh man, I mean, I've told you all my tricks basically.
Mm-hmm.
I can do the worm, but I won't show you in my messy room. Do you know what that is? That like that and
Yes.
like
Yep.
I can
I
do
can do the
that.
worm too. Yeah.
Oh, I
Okay.
forget. I'm talking to the fitness heroes of my life. So yeah, that won't be impressive. In my normal like music geeky people circle, they're like, "Whoa, the worm." I don't know. I know songwriting and yoga are probably talents of their own. So I guess it'd have to be one of them. I can't. Maybe a talent is I can't do a lot of things. Like I can't roll my tongue. I can't do the trill. The Spanish word trill. I can't
Mm-hmm.
whistle. I can sing. All points, all vocal things went to singing. Can't do any of the other stuff. So that's that's my talent.
Okay. I like it. Okay. So well let's just hang on yoga for a second. So if you could only teach one pose, like for everybody out there listening, what pose do
Mm.
you recommend that they do?
Thank you for honing in this question. One pose, man. I don't even know. That is actually pretty hard. Um, I will say one of the ones I find really nice is at night before bed. If you can lay on your back or if you have a pillow to put under your back and you put your feet
Uh-huh.
together. So we're in this butterfly pose. I put one
Uh-huh.
hand on chest, one on belly. And
Uh-huh.
if you can sit there for 2 minutes and you just follow the breath in and out. See how many repetitions can you do that without the mind wandering? And if it wanders, you just let it go. You just send the thoughts away. I say, send them up into the clouds and then come back. But again, that reconnection to body, that's called reclined butterfly. But I really am big on people putting their hand here and on their belly.
Uh-huh.
And it's for relaxation and connection to body, connection to what you're doing. That's one thing I love about yoga. I don't think I would, I never got into yoga before because I was like, this isn't really a good workout. Like, I don't feel like I'm getting a workout in these in the same way I could somewhere else. But I realized for yoga, it's it's about getting your mind where it needs to be. And then any workout you do comes easier. Anything you do comes easier, at least for me. Um, so that'd be the pose. Recline butterfly. There you go. That's the one.
Perfect. So so that's funny that you say that. Yeah, if I had to pick one, because I do not much yoga. I do a little bit of stretching, but
Oh,
I used to meditate a lot. I taught myself how to meditate. And
that's
it's funny because the people that are like, I can't meditate are the people that need meditation the most.
yeah.
Um, but
Yeah.
when I think about it, is yeah, I got to the point where I was meditating after every workout at the gym, and I would literally just lay on
Oh,
the floor by a wall in the middle of the gym and just be total peace. And I I would have people that would
love
walk up.
that.
Yeah, I'd have people walk up and say like I had people at first walk up and say, "Are you okay?" And it's like, "Yes, I'm fine. Thank you. Just
I'm more than
meditating."
okay.
I had
I
I
love
had a
that.
person or two I had a person or two join me a couple times.
Yeah. That's
But yeah,
awesome.
yeah, but it's just one of those things.
Wow.
I think it does help you get to the right space. Like it's if you can sit with yourself and your thoughts for any period of time at all, like that's some type of mastery
Mhm.
to a certain extent. And it's
Yeah.
yeah, but a lot of people can't. Like I've talked to some people that like they can't spend 20 seconds with their eyes closed sitting with
Yeah.
themselves. And it's
It's hard.
wild. Yeah.
It's so hard. And I think a lot of it
Mhm.
is we think how it's supposed to be, and you're supposed to feel peace. And it's
Oh,
like peace is this byproduct. Can you just be with yourself, like you
yep.
said?
Yep.
So that's been interesting to learn. I love that. I love this image of you in the gym just doing that. You're probably like,
I
did he
did.
die? Is this cardiac
I,
arrest?
I had no shame either. I would do it all the time. And I didn't even think about it because I was like, you know what? If I can meditate in the gym with everything going on, that's probably pretty good.
Yeah, that is. That's really
So,
good.
yeah, yeah. Okay. So now, what is something you are learning about currently that you could teach us?
Hmm. Okay, so this is not necessarily super current, but I have found I get really stressed out with politics and the world and everything, you hear on the news
Uh-huh.
and everything. I do find myself getting really enraged at people sometimes or things people say, I should say. And you probably wouldn't benefit. I feel like you're already in the space potentially from what you've said. One thing that's helped me a ton lately, there's Eastern thought, and I don't necessarily believe this is true, but I do this thought experiment and it has given me a lot of peace and a lot of compassion. And it's this idea that we are all actually sounds so zenny, I know, but it literally, if we are all actually one mind, one consciousness, but the problem is, I know it sounds so zen, but hear me out, hear
No, no,
me
no.
out, hear me out. If we are all one, but because we're in these distinct bodies, um, the perspective is as it is. And actually, if everyone was in that distinct body, our perspective would be the same. It has given me compassion because this is actually where I should go with this. The thing I learned the last year and a half has been about IFS, which you may know about, the parts work from Dr. Richard Schwartz. And it has literally changed my life. And it's partly
Uh-huh.
why I've looked at myself through the idea of parts.
Uh-huh.
Like, and it makes so much sense why you have internal conflict when you look through that lens. This is like old news to you. This is kind of new to me. So bear with me. But when I also extend that to other people and then think we're also these individual parts of one organism, it is like my compassion meter is able to hold so much more. And so I would just encourage, I guess that would be the thing. I'm not, it's not a new idea. It's not maybe it is profound to me, I will say. It is profound and new to me to think all parts belong. in a
Uh-huh.
way for as someone who has kind of cut herself off from a lot over my life. That's been a really big thing. So, have you read his stuff at all? No Bad Parts is the book name or
Yeah,
anything?
that was one of the books that also changed my life too. So
Okay.
yes.
I'll tell you what. I'm like, man, if people took this to heart, like the way countries are governed, the way like it's not the answer to life, but it's close. I will tell you, I feel like it's pretty
Yeah.
like the cohesion, the way you can think of all these parts operating and having needs. And the reason they don't fit is because something's unheard or unmet. But the
Yep.
inner desire is good, it's just of every part of you.
Yeah.
If that can extend out to other people, it just
Uh-huh.
changes a lot. And I've seen things in my life just fit together more seamlessly, more with more ease with that philosophy in mind. So that's really behind my little thought experiment of we're all one mind. But like for real, I don't know, it's
Mhm.
helped me. So
Yeah. No, I agree.
that
I
would be
agree 100%. So, but I was laughing earlier because it's not weird to think that I've had this thought that we've been a hive mind for so long.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
that. A hive
Yeah. A
mind.
hive mind, same concept that we're all like we're all one
Oh.
essentially. But you're right though,
Mhm.
is like it's very um what's the right word? Not entitled, but I'll use that word. It's very entitled of us to think that if we were in someone else's shoes that we'd be any different. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because to that point,
Yeah.
they have their life experiences and they are the way they are because of certain things. And yeah, to plug what you said earlier, so internal family systems for those listening. But yeah, No
Yes.
Bad Parts, name of the book, good book. But that's probably one of the books that I think resonates with people the most because I'm one of those people that once I read something, I like to tell everybody about it. And
Yes. You've already
anytime
been
I
here.
talk and anytime I talk about it, when I bring up that book, usually I get people like, "Hold on, tell me more about that. Tell me more." And it's like,
Wow.
yeah, like we're not a mono mind, right? We're like a collection. So think about the external world as like a family, like actually family structures, brothers, moms, sisters, grandparents. Now think about that internally the whole time. We're just a collection of parts, and each one's trying to do their own functions. So you have your exiles, you have your managers that kind of keep track of the exiles because we deem them not very good for the time period, right? So we thought they were bad. And then you have your firefighters that help when things get out of hand, and you have all this stuff, and
Mhm.
it's just fascinating to me when you do think about it that way. It's like, wow, it's like that makes sense, and it's so much easier too. Which I think it's also easier to simplify it completely is to say that like instead of saying I'm this way, to say like I have a part that's this way. Also feels much more gives you much more compassion for yourself. I think too. But yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. Such a good book.
Yeah. It's so good. It's so good.
Okay. Let's see. What are you doing for fun?
What am I doing for fun?
Mhm.
Well, I feel like I'm just all these. I'm kind of like I'm kind of this basic white girl, and that's fine. But I've started reading just novels this year again. So much of my
Mhm.
time has been spent reading philosophy and religion books over the past few years, and that's great. But literally, to just read books for fun, it almost has felt like too much of a splurge of time. And I don't know if you're an Enneagram person, but I am a 3 to a core. So to waste any time has been really it's that stresses me out to think you're wasting
Mhm.
time. So just reading books for fun has been what I'm doing for fun, and it's been really nice. So
Yeah.
that's it.
Okay, so I'm also an Enneagram 3. So
Freaking are we the same? We are
I
close
don't
in the hive. We are
I don't
close.
know. I see. I also think too. So I'm all into all types of personality profiles because I like the thought of kind of like being able to figure yourself out.
Yeah.
So like so subconsciously, you don't know this, but so I teach this. I've been teaching this course at work lately. It's called Insights Discovery. It's basically they
Oh,
take Carl Jung's work and basically like introversion, extroversion, thinking, feeling, sensing, and intuition. You take this 30
okay.
question assessment and it gives you like a whole profile, and they use it for businesses. And but it's deals a lot with the personal realm too. But the whole time I've been thinking, I think we're in the same quadrant on that. Just
Okay.
just FYI, because I would assume that you are an external feeler. Is that fair to say?
Okay.
Extroversion,
Well,
feeling.
I've done this. I've done this test, and I'm
Have you?
introverted. I always am, but I've done one.
Really?
I
What
know
color?
it's. It's strange. I don't remember colors. I remember, is this
Mhm.
the Myers? Wait, am I getting this mixed up with Myers-Briggs? Are those the same
Possibly.
thing?
They're different.
They're not
So
the
what is
same.
your Myers?
Okay.
What's your Myers Briggs?
Well, it's INFJ, which is everyone I know is that. Isn't that supposed to be rare?
I don't
Like
know.
everyone I know. But it's introverted, intuitive,
Uh-huh.
instead of feeling. No, I no F is in there. Feeling and then judgmental, judging, but not actually judgmental. That means something else, right? Than
Uh-huh.
just judging
Yes.
everyone.
Yes. Yeah.
So if those, I don't know if those that's the same thing or if that plays in a quadrant.
I mean, you can break it down the same way. Like I've found out, like if you do Myers Briggs, you can kind of coordinate into that. So that means, so if you're introverted feeling, you would be in the green category, which is next to me.
Okay,
Um, so I'm in the yellow category, the extroverted feeler. Um,
that's so
but
interesting.
but what's interesting though is I'm curious because extroversion and introversion do mean different things depending on what test you take.
Yeah.
So, so like the extroversion through that course talks mostly about it. It has to do with taking action, like moving quickly. So, for instance, you said you
Okay.
speak to think. Speaking to think is an extroverted trait. So,
Okay.
thinking to speak is an introverted thing. It means like, okay, I need to take time to process information before I say anything. Whereas some people are like for instance, like give me the facts, or I'll figure it out. Let's go
Yeah.
socialize. Let's do whatever we need to do and just take action. So
That's
it's interesting.
interesting.
So yeah. So I'd be
Yeah, I don't
curious.
know. Yeah, I don't know what I would be on that. I do know, like, I do love talking one on one, important conversations, but the recharge, when they talk about the recharge, like, how do you recharge with people or
Uh-huh.
with away? The recharge always happens alone, it seems. Um, even, I mean, podcasting has been kind of the one exception, I will say. So it's sort of like what's happening with my personality because I will get recharged after podcasting, like this sort of thing.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, but small talk and all that, I can't. I have trouble. I have
I
trouble
mean,
with
yeah,
it.
I'm not a small
So,
talker either. But what is,
yeah,
but a good way to work at is what's your social tank like though? Like, do you feel like
social
you could talk to people for quite a while or connect to people for quite a while before recharging?
before recharging. No, I can do like one of these a day.
Mm-hmm.
One of these conversations a day,
A day.
and then
Okay.
no one talked to me. No, no, I don't know. I do feel like I shouldn't say one a day. You know, with close friends, it could be more. Um, but I do think it needs to probably there has to be alone time every day, or stuff starts getting a little
Mm-hmm.
wonky. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. I don't know.
Gotcha. Okay.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Surprising because I can't stop
maybe you're
talking.
well, maybe you're somewhere in the middle, right?
Maybe. There you go.
Maybe. Okay.
Well, I mean, it could
So
be because I always thought you'd be I mean, from, and I did not know you like super closely, but I
yeah,
definitely would have thought you were an introvert.
I
So
know
it's kind of funny. Yeah.
a lot
How
of
those
people
things.
do. A lot of people do that, and it's just because there's a reservedness to me to a certain extent. But any test I've ever taken has always ranked really, really high on extrovert. But I think
That's
it's
so
because I think it's a misunderstood thing. Is I think people think extroverted means you have to be super outgoing, and it doesn't necessarily mean that. It means you're charged by that type of stimulation or that type of connection with
yeah.
people.
Yeah.
So yeah, because yeah, it's like pretty through the charts on most things that I that I
That
do.
you are. That's
Yeah,
wild.
yeah, because even Myers Briggs, I'm an ENFP, so I'm extroverted in that too.
Oh, wow. That's so crazy. I will say, there was one test I took. It was way back in high school. So,
Uh,
who even was I in high school? Almost possessed, apparently. But it gave me a percentage of each, extroverted and introverted. And it was like 49-51 with introversion
mm,
winning out. So I don't know if there's
hmm.
anything to that, but I do
Yeah,
love when I'm talking to people, but then it's like there comes a point where like we need to stop. We really need to
yeah,
stop. I need to exit.
yeah, yeah, for
I'm not
sure.
there yet with you, but
No, I
just
got you. But this test that I give people, they really emphasize the fact that we have all of the colors essentially. So we have them all. We just prefer certain ones. We have preferences. So that's
okay.
why like they have this criteria which may not mean a lot to you, but there's like what they call the midline. So any color above the midline is something you leverage a lot. I leverage three different types above the midline, and there's one I don't
Oh wow.
leverage very often. So it's like, so if you think about it in that lens, it's like, oh, I prefer extroversion, but also I'm also introverted thinker. So I do have times where I'm like, let's really think and process this information. Then trying to think about, well, where does that show up in life? And thinking about like, oh, well, that probably showed up in a lot of our interactions where I'm being more reserved and really calculating and thinking out the process.
Yeah,
So it's kind of fascinating to look at it through that lens.
that is cool. That is cool.
So, okay. So here's one of my favorite questions. So we've covered a ton today. So if you were to write a story about your life from when you were born to now, what would that story be called?
Oh man. Okay, well, the when I first read this question, I I was totally thinking, deconstruction stuff, and I was like, it'd definitely be called Christian-ish because I'm Christian-ish now, but as I'm here with you today, I have a really strong feeling the next third of life, I'm basically through third-ish, if I'm lucky. It might be more than a third now, but I feel like the next third is going to be defined really differently. So if the question is from birth till now, it'd probably be Christian-ish. But I
Okay.
just have a feeling that's going to be part one, and I don't know what's going to
Ooh,
come next. So
I
it'll probably
like
be,
it.
devilish. No, I'm just kidding. Hopefully not. But I mean, we'll see what happens. So, yeah,
Wiccanish.
Wiccan-ish, full circle. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. I like that. Okay. Christianish. Okay. And then this is we have two things left. So this time for you is like your time. So anything you want to promote, if you want to share your socials, your podcast,
Yeah.
this is your time to do whatever you want.
Okay, I'd like to do the worm right now. No, I do not want to do that.
Okay.
I don't want to promote that actually. I don't know why I would say that. That's not what I want out there. So my podcast is called Deconstructing the Myth, and it is on really, I think most places people listen to their podcast, but we're actually not on YouTube. Since as you know, I was not a big you like video person for it.
Uh-huh.
So anywhere you listen to audio podcasts, and then the Instagram page I'm most active on, Deconstructing the Myth is its handle. Um Yeah, I think that's about it. I have a few, I did a little spurt of yoga videos. I don't even remember the handle. But I was actually thinking of that when we talked about that earlier. Just, I love that we can just jump in, try stuff. It was fun, back out when it's
Uh-huh.
time. Because it's funny because when you said, what would you like to promote? I wasn't even thinking socials for a second. I was like, man, I wish more Americans knew Eastern philosophy. That's what I want to promote. I
You can
want to
say that.
promote
No,
that.
do that. Do it.
So I will. I mean, just, in some ways, I'm really a baby in this stuff because, like, I just spent so much of my life in the Abrahamic faiths, especially Christianity and stuff. So everything is so novel, like that concept of the one mind and all that is so paradigm shifting and healing for me. Not that I believe it necessarily, but to entertain the thought and to see how that changes. A lot of the way is Eastern religions and philosophies talk about things. Buddhism is one that's been really insightful for me. I think they can help a lot of people who are either, deconstructing, have left Christianity, or really are in Christianity, but have some questions or some struggle. I don't think that thoughts from these other philosophies negate Christianity in the way people sometimes fear they will.
Uh-huh.
But it's been an eye-opening thing. So I will just say Eastern religion and philosophy. I'd like to promote that alongside my podcast. So there you
Okay.
go.
Deal. What's funny is I agree. Like I think more than not, other religions and things are all saying the exact same thing, just in a different
Um,
way. And I think there's so much more that connects us than actually divides us, even though we like to put up that wall and argue over the frivolous stuff, in my opinion. But there's a lot of stuff out there that I think we're just, it's a different perspective. That's all.
yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. I think the core desires and goals remain largely the same. It's
Uh-huh.
really the how we think we're getting there and what honestly what obstacles people perceive are in the ways. I think that's the
Mhm.
difference in a lot of your religions. So well put, I would say.
Okay. I agree. Okay. Anything else?
Oh man. I was so prepared for this last week when I bailed on you accidentally. Sorry about that. And now this week I'm like, what did I have? I guess if people want to go back and hear some of my old music, they can. Elizabeth
Okay.
Ann Mall was my uh was what a lot of this music was under that I did with this little label. Not super little now, I guess, but that'll be it. That'll be all I'll promote for now. Socials
Okay.
and Eastern philosophy.
Okay,
So
there we go. Okay. So one of my favorite parts of the podcast, this is how we end it, is the last guest created a question for you, and now you're going to create a question for the next guest. So you have no idea what this question is.
okay,
So here we go. You ready?
I'm ready.
Let's see. And I feel like it's so fitting. I feel like these are always fitting for the next guest, like it's all meant
It
to be. That's
does.
what's funny. Are you ready? So
Good.
the question is, what advice are you good at giving others that you need to take for yourself?
That is really good. Oh, I think the advice I'm good at giving others lately is reminding them of boundaries they have set for themselves in relationships, with work, whatever. I'm a good reminder. And of course, then when it's my turn to be like, it's hard to take it. So I think that, yeah, and maybe that's kind of a universal human thing. It's like we're looking out for our friends in a little different way than we sometimes look out for ourselves, with boundaries, with people and everything. So I think telling people to stick to your boundaries, get to know them and and honor them. Yeah. I need to look in the mirror sometimes and say that too. Because like I said, and I don't know if you had this because you'll have to tell me. I've always been able to be chatty. So that niceness, that agreeableness, I do think that is somewhat an American Midwest thing. A lot of it is that. Some of it's me. But to be able to be like, no, I don't actually want to do that. And like that's really hard to do still. And so learning that's been ongoing.
Yeah.
But
I like that. I like that answer.
yeah.
Okay. So, yeah. So then what question do you want to leave the next guest?
Well, I kind of feel like it's a lot. I was gonna say, what do you think makes up a fulfilled life? Is that good? Is that okay? Can we do that
That's
one?
perfect. Yep.
Okay. What do you think makes up a fulfilled life? They'll be like, who and why are they asking? But I like that last one a lot.
Okay. So
The
now
advice.
I would love to know your answer to this.
Oh, to that question? Oh no,
Mm-hmm.
no, this is for
Yep.
someone
Yep.
else. This is for someone else. I will say, I will say, it's really wild actually, because my son the other day, he was being really quiet in the car, which for him is unusual. And I was like, what are you thinking on? He's 6. And he's like, what is the purpose of my life? And I was like, oh my gosh. Here we go. You're 6. Why? I said, well, what do you think? I was like, I have some thoughts. What do you think? And he said something about like, he used the word humanity too. And I was like, how do you know that word? But he was like, I think humanity is meant to see what we can do while we're here. And I think he said the word experience too. I was like, he's probably heard me also somewhat. Who is this little tortured genius? No, I don't know. But he talked about experiencing things. And I said, honestly, I was like, I've spent a lot of my life trying to figure this out. I said, right now, today, when I was totally convinced, this is not all what I told him. I'm going to tell you. When I
Uh-huh.
was totally convinced of very dogmatic evangelical Christianity, I still came to the conclusion the goal for me is to love well. I mean, that was the conclusion then. God is love, love well. And now if I stare in the face of the fact there could also not be anything besides our limited time here, we're here, we're gone, that is it, it's all natural. I think the goal would still be how much and how well can I love in this life? Love people, learn to love self, love the environment I'm in. It's so basic. It's so basic, but
Uh-huh.
it's like, it's kind of reassuring to realize the goal never actually changed. For all my questions, all my stuff. It changed like font, maybe,
Mhm.
you know, it changed font from or genre or something, but it's still the same. And so I think for me, a fulfilled life is one where I can look back and be like, I did love a lot. And I learned to love people how they needed loved. I think that's a big goal for me, how they needed it. Like we talked about earlier, sometimes we can love ourselves well, we figured that out. But the next step I'd like to get better at too. So, yeah.
I like that. Okay.
Yeah.
So I will answer this question on the
Yes.
recap episode. So
Oh, when does
what
that
I
come out?
so what I do is every 10 episodes I recap the episodes, the guest episodes that I had, and then I answered their questions. So you'll have to tune into episode
I
the 50
will.
question recap. So guess what? You're episode 49, so you don't have to wait very long.
Okay. Okay. I do have to wait on. That's great. That's
So
exciting. And the last
yeah.
one will be what they think a fulfilled life. Oh no, wait. No, they're gonna ask another one.
Yeah,
Your
they'll ask
next
one
guest.
more.
Okay. Okay.
So
Very
then I'll
cool.
recap it. So that'll be good. So yeah, I'll leave the people in suspense out there for that episode.
Yeah, that sounds great.
So Liz, it's been awesome having you on, by the way. So it's cool hearing your stories, and I knew you'd be a fun social person to have on here. Like I know we'd vibe well.
Yeah.
But it's actually really cool to see kind of the similarities that we had too. So
Yeah.
yeah. So thank you for hopping on and rescheduling so quickly. I
Uh,
appreciate that.
you're so kind. I postponed for like over a month and then I canceled when we were supposed to be recording. So thank you. Thank you
No problem.
for working with me.
Oh, no problem. And then yeah, and then to close us out, what would you like to tell the audience to close us out today?
Hmm. I think I would tell them that this concept of your podcast is really important. That's in the sense that if you're like me and maybe you with three trying to chase, the 2% and whatever that
Uh-huh.
means in people and all these things, the beauty, the meat of life, it happens in the middle. The middle does not mean
Uh-huh.
bad. It happens in the middle of ordinary life, like you say,
Uh-huh.
and in ordinary people. That's actually where the magic happens. The 2%'s the outlier. And so I love that concept for a podcast, and I hope people will press into that a little bit more. So I guess that's a plug for your show. But I actually, hearing you explain it, I was like, that's really cool. Like, that's a really cool thought of like, why are we focused on the 2% so much? Let's get back to real people and real things and loving them where they're at. So that's what I'd say.
Look at that. I'll have to have you close out every episode now. I'm just, I'm
There you
just
go.
kidding. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate that. That's cool. Yeah. So just to let you know, so this isn't the last time. So, what I do too is I've been doing what I call welcome to the hot seat episodes. And those are for returning guests.
Ooh,
And
okay.
how those work is I would create 4 questions for you. You create 4 for me. And we're not going to tell each other until we hop on and start talking. So, and I
Okay.
leave it to where you can ask anything and we have to answer. So,
Oh, geez.
um,
Oh, wow. Okay.
so could be kind of fun. So just let you know. So, I'm sure
All right.
we'll connect sometime and have you on that too. So
Yeah.
cool.
Keep me in mind for it. That'd be fun.
Okay.
That's
Will do.
basically what this was because I forgot all my
Cause
answers.
well, maybe
It
that's
was
what
the hot seat episode.
exactly. Well, maybe that's how it was supposed to be in the first place. I don't know.
Maybe. Maybe. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, Liz, thank you so much for hopping on, and I'll catch you later. Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay. See ya.